I never thought breaking up with my ex would turn into a full-blown nightmare. We'd only dated for about 8 months. Nothing too serious, just two adults trying to make it work. But his mom, oh, his mom was something else. Controlling, manipulative, the kind of woman who thought her son was a gift from heaven and that any girl who dated him should be grateful. A few weeks after the breakup, I started getting these weird texts from unknown numbers. They weren't threats at first, more like snide little comments. You'll never find someone like him. You should be ashamed of what you did. Everyone at church knows what kind of girl you are. At first, I laughed it off. I thought maybe it was my ex being petty, or one of his friends trying to stir the pot. But then, someone started showing up near my apartment, just watching. I'd see a silver sedan parked across the street, the same one, over and over. And when I finally confronted my ex about it, he said, "Oh, you must be imagining things." That's when I knew something wasn't right. And when I found out who was behind it, I realized this wasn't just some petty breakup drama. It was something darker, and it was about to blow up in a way his mom never saw coming. After that last talk with my ex, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Every night, that same silver sedan sat parked across from my building. I started taking pictures, license plate, make, model, just in case. I wasn't going to be the crazy ex everyone ignored while something dangerous brewed in the background. A few days later, one of those unknown numbers texted me again. Greater than, you think people don't know the truth about you? Wait until Sunday. That one hit different. Sunday, the same day his mom's church held service. My gut twisted. I screenshotted the message and ran the number through a reverse lookup app. It didn't give me much, but one name popped up, Sandra M. That was his mom's name. My heart dropped. It couldn't be. A grown woman, harassing her son's ex. I dug deeper. The number was registered to a small business she co-owned with a church friend. That's when everything clicked. The texts, the car, the gossip I'd been hearing from mutual friends. His mom had been going around telling people I led her son astray, that I was a homewrecker, and that God would expose me. But she wasn't waiting for God, she was doing the exposing herself. That's when I decided, if she wanted a show, I was going to give her one. Only this time, it wouldn't be me getting exposed. By this point, I was done being scared. I was angry, furious, actually. I hadn't done anything wrong, yet this woman was painting me as some evil temptress who destroyed her son's life. The irony, her son cheated on me. Twice. And she still thought I was the problem. So, I decided to fight back, the smart way. I started saving every text, every voicemail, every message from fake Facebook accounts that I knew she or her little church friends were behind. One night, I even followed that silver sedan from a distance. My hands were shaking the whole time, but I needed to know for sure. The car led straight to her house. I almost laughed. She didn't even try to hide it. Over the next few days, I reached out to a mutual friend, someone who still went to their church. I didn't tell her everything, just hinted that I'd been getting strange messages. She sighed and said, "Oh honey, you didn't hear it from me, but his mom's been talking about you nonstop. She says she's praying for your repentance." Repentance. For what? Leaving her son. That was the last straw. I printed out all the evidence, the texts, the phone records, even screenshots of her comments in a private church Facebook group. My plan was simple. Let the truth come out. Where it hurt her most, right inside her perfect little church community. But I had no idea how explosive it would get once I actually pulled the trigger. By Saturday night, I had everything ready. My printer had practically overheated from all the screenshots I printed, every text, every fake account, every timestamp that linked back to her. I even highlighted the ones that came directly from her business number. I didn't want revenge at first. I just wanted peace. But after weeks of being harassed, followed, and humiliated, I realized peace wasn't coming unless I took it back myself. So I came up with a plan. Her church live-streamed every Sunday service on Facebook. They had a comment section, open to the public. I figured if she loved spreading rumors in God's house, maybe it was time the congregation saw what their prayer warrior was really doing behind the scenes. I made a new account, uploaded all the screenshots to a cloud folder, and scheduled a post to drop exactly 10 minutes into the Sunday sermon, the time she usually stood up front, leading worship. The post read, Greater than, since Sandra likes talking about me at church, maybe the church should see what she's been sending behind closed doors. God bless heart. I linked the folder right under it. That night, I barely slept. My heart was racing with a mix of fear and adrenaline. I kept asking myself if I was going too far. But then I remembered every cruel text, every fake rumor, and every time I'd looked over my shoulder. No, I wasn't the villain here. When Sunday morning came, I sat on my couch with a cup of coffee, phone in hand, and watched the live stream load. She was there, smiling at the pulpit, pretending to be holy. And right on cue, my post went live. At first, it was quiet, just the usual upbeat worship music, people clapping, hands raised. My post had only been up for about 30 seconds when I saw the first few comments pop up under the church's livestream. Then it snowballed. Fast. The chat section started blowing up. People were tagging the pastor, others were asking, is this true? And, who's Sandra texting? Within a minute, the church's Facebook stream had over 100 new comments. I could see her face on camera as someone from the front row whispered something in her ear. Her smile faltered. Then she looked straight toward the media booth, confused and panicked. I almost felt bad, almost. Then the pastor stopped mid-sermon. You could tell something was seriously wrong. He said, I'm being told there's been an online disruption. That's when Sandra tried to grab her phone, but people around her were already murmuring. Some had their own phones out, scrolling. I knew they were reading the texts, the ones where she called me a trashy little homewrecker, a Jezebel, and even worse things I won't repeat. The live stream suddenly cut out. My post, though, it had already been shared nearly 200 times. Screenshots were everywhere. I even saw a few of her church friends commenting things like, this can't be real, and, Sandra, please tell me this isn't you. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. I knew I'd just lit a fire that couldn't be put out. But what came next was beyond anything I could have imagined, because the church didn't just turn on her. They decided to investigate everything. By Monday morning, the church's Facebook page had completely locked down, no comments, no posts, nothing. But the damage was already done. Screenshots of my post had spread everywhere in town. People were texting me, some to say they were sorry for what I'd gone through, others just looking for gossip. Then I got a message from someone I didn't expect, the church pastor himself. He was surprisingly calm, polite even. He said, I'd like to speak with you privately. We're reviewing some troubling allegations and need to understand the full picture. Part of me hesitated. I didn't owe anyone an explanation, least of all them. But I wanted them to see the truth. So I agreed to meet. When I walked into his office the next day, Sandra was there, sitting in the corner, red-eyed, pretending to be the victim. She couldn't even look me in the eye. The pastor motioned for me to sit, then asked me to explain everything. So I did, calmly. I showed the texts, the phone records, and even photos of the silver sedan parked outside my place. The pastor just kept nodding, his jaw tightening more with each piece of proof I handed him. When I finished, the room was silent. Then he turned to her and said, Sandra, these messages came from your business number. She stammered, tried to say someone hacked her phone. But I could tell from the look on his face, he didn't believe her. A few days later, I heard she'd been asked to step down from leadership roles pending further review. Translation: she'd been kicked out of her position at the church. I should have felt satisfied, but something inside me said it wasn't over yet, because when you humiliate someone who's built their entire life on fake perfection, they don't just accept defeat. They come for revenge. For about a week, things were quiet. Too quiet. I thought maybe Sandra had finally accepted that her little crusade was over. The church had distanced itself from her. Her friends were avoiding her calls, and she'd gone completely silent online. But if I'd learned anything, it was that silence from someone like her never meant peace, it meant plotting. One Friday night, I came home from work and found something stuffed under my apartment door, a letter, handwritten, in blue ink. My heart dropped the moment I saw the signature, Sandra M. The note was full of venom. She said I'd ruined her family's reputation, that I'd destroyed a good Christian man's life, and that God would make me pay. She even ended it with, "You think this is over, but it's only beginning." I immediately took photos and filed a report at the police station. The officer there took it seriously, especially after I showed him the other evidence from before. They said they'd document it as harassment and advised me to stay alert. A few days later, fake profiles started popping up again, but this time, they weren't targeting me directly. They were going after my job. Someone emailed my boss claiming I'd blackmailed a church woman and was mentally unstable. Thankfully, my boss called me into his office and said, "We know this is garbage, but you might want to lawyer up." That's when I realized, Sandra wasn't just angry. She was obsessed. She couldn't handle losing control of the narrative, so she was trying to rewrite it by any means necessary. But I wasn't that scared, naive girl anymore. If she wanted to keep playing, I was going to make sure she regretted ever starting this game. By the time those fake emails hit my workplace, I was done playing defense. I hired a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Kelly who didn't flinch at the word harassment. I handed her everything. Screenshots, call logs, the letter, the police report. She flipped through the stack of papers, nodded, and said, "We're going to make her wish she'd stayed quiet." Within a week, Kelly sent Sandra a cease and desist notice, a formal warning that if she continued contacting or defaming me, we'd take her to court for harassment, libel, and defamation. 2 days later, Sandra showed up at my apartment building. She didn't even make it past the front gate. My neighbor, bless him, recorded her pacing outside, screaming that I ruined her life. That video went straight to my lawyer. The next morning, I filed for a restraining order. And here's where karma did her thing. Turns out, during the church's internal review, they'd uncovered more dirt. Sandra had a long history of bullying and manipulating other women in the congregation, gossiping, spreading rumors, even convincing one family to leave after accusing them of moral failings. My situation was just the one that finally exposed her. When the court hearing date came, she didn't even look at me. The judge reviewed the evidence, especially the texts and that handwritten letter, and granted the restraining order immediately. It was finally over. Or at least, I thought it was. Because even though Sandra was legally silenced, the fallout from her lies was still unraveling around her, and I was about to hear just how deep her web of deceit had gone. A few months passed after the court order, and for the first time in what felt like forever, my life was quiet. No strange cars parked near my apartment. No anonymous texts. No whispers from people I barely knew. Just peace. Then one afternoon, I ran into an old mutual friend at a grocery store, someone who still went to that same church. At first, I hesitated to even say hello, but she smiled and said softly, "You probably don't know this, but you did the right thing." She told me Sandra had been completely removed from all her church positions. Her business had lost clients after people saw how she'd acted, and her reputation, the perfect, polished image she'd spent years building, had crumbled. Apparently, even her own son had cut contact for a while, embarrassed by everything she'd done. I didn't gloat. I didn't laugh. Honestly, I just felt tired. The kind of exhaustion that hits after surviving a storm that never should have happened in the first place. A week later, I went through my phone and deleted every screenshot, every message, every photo I'd saved as proof. Not because I forgave her, but because I was done letting her take up space in my life. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, listening to the quiet hum of traffic. For the first time, I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel watched. I didn't even feel angry. Just free. If I learned anything from that whole nightmare, it's this: some people can't stand being exposed, because the mask they wear is the only thing holding their world together. And when you pull that mask off, they don't just lose control, they lose everything.